Hi everyone, welcome back to Life Stories 1. My name is Grace, and growing up, I learned it quickly that love in my family wasn't a shared resource. It flowed directly, almost exclusively, to my older brother Leo. He was the golden child, praised constantly, given the best of everything. Me? I was the shadow, useful for chores, or as a benchmark to make Leo look even better. I remember Christmas when I was 7. Leo ripped open the biggest box, revealing the latest gaming console. Pure joy on his face, captured forever by my mom Margaret's phone camera. My gift, when I finally got it, was a gray, oversized t-shirt from a clearance rack. Price tag still on, $3.99. It even had a plumbing company logo. "Learn to be content, sweetie," Mom chirped. "Leo's older, he needs more important things." Birthdays weren't much different. Leo's 16th was a massive lakeside party with a live band and a brand new car. Mine? Frozen pizza with 2 friends at home and a cheap notebook. "You're practical," Dad Robert said. Practical meant unworthy of anything special. College came. Leo got full tuition and spending money. I got loan applications and lectures on independence. When we graduated, Leo was celebrated with confetti and cake. His gift? A starter home in the suburbs. Me? Fast food in the dining room, and Mom handed me a plain white envelope. Inside, a $2 scratch-off lottery ticket. "Just for fun," she said brightly. "Maybe you'll hit it big." Dad shrugged. "You know how it is. All our money went into Leo's house." I managed a hollow smile. That ticket felt like my worth, summed up. A cheap gamble. I knew then, if I wanted a real life, I had to build it myself. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories for more real-life stories. That hollow graduation dinner was the final straw. I packed my few belongings, old clothes, a sputtering laptop, a chipped suitcase, and walked out of the house on Elm Street, a place that never truly felt like home. I landed in Portland, Oregon, renting a studio apartment so small it barely fit a bed and a desk. The walls were thin, stained an uninspiring beige, and the plumbing gurgled suspiciously in the cold. Midnight sirens and the constant hum of the city replaced the suffocating silence I grew up with. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Here, no one compared me to Leo. No one handed me clearance rack clothes and told me to be grateful. Survival meant working 2 jobs. By day, I was a marketing assistant at a small billboard company downtown. By night, I wiped tables, served pastries, and hauled trash at a bakery near the riverfront, often not getting home until after midnight. My feet ached constantly. My hands perpetually smelled of sugar and cleaning supplies. But exhaustion felt strangely lighter than the weight of my family's indifference. Contact was rare. A text here and there, maybe. Never a call just to ask how I was doing. The family group chat, which I was still technically part of, remained the Leo show. Mom Margaret would post pictures of his new car, his decorated living room. Dad Robert shared videos of Leo and his girlfriend, Sophia, vacationing somewhere sunny. Captioned, "The kid deserves it all." My attempts at connection, a simple, "How's everyone?" were met with silence, or maybe a thumbs-up emoji. Sometimes I genuinely wondered if they'd notice if I simply vanished. That $2 lottery ticket Mom had tossed me? It ended up shoved in a kitchen drawer, buried under loose change, expired coupons, and an overdue utility bill. I saw it every day. Sometimes I'd trace the edge with my finger, the cheap paper a stark reminder of my perceived value in their eyes. A long shot, not an investment. Then I'd slam the drawer shut. I told myself I was fine, hardened, didn't need their approval. But late at night, Mom's voice echoed, "Leo needs more." It was a constant low-grade ache. One Friday, a coworker invited me to a small get-together. I mostly kept to myself until Chloe, from the creative team, struck up a conversation. We talked about work, then she tilted her head. "Grace, how come you never mention your family?" I hesitated, the truth feeling raw. Maybe because they never really saw me as part of it. Chloe didn't offer pity, just a quiet nod of understanding. It was the first time I felt truly heard. That night, back in my tiny studio, something felt different. My phone buzzed. Another group chat notification. I glanced. It was Leo posting a picture of himself and Sophia in front of a house, beaming, with a sign behind them. Playground for our firstborn, coming soon. Below it, enthusiastic congratulations from Mom and Dad. Nothing for me, or from me. A small, dry laugh escaped me, but this time it lacked the usual bitterness. I opened the kitchen drawer, pulled out the crumpled lottery ticket, and smoothed it on the table. Something inside me, maybe exhaustion, maybe defiance, maybe just a flicker of hope ignited by Chloe's simple act of listening, urged me on. Not for the money, but for the chance to prove, if only to myself, that I wasn't worthless. I grabbed my phone, pulled up the Oregon Lottery website, uncapped a pen, and began to scratch. The silver coating flaked away, revealing the numbers one by one. My breath hitched. 8, 14, 27, 33, 42, 56. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it might break free. I squeezed my eyes shut, then opened them again, forcing myself to compare the ticket to the winning numbers displayed on the Oregon Lottery website, flashing on my phone screen. Match, 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 every single one. A banner pulsed at the top of the site. Congratulations, you've won the jackpot, 134 million. The pen slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the cheap linoleum floor. I stared at the ticket, then the screen, then back again. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a cruel prank or a vivid dream. It was real. The tiny, buzzing apartment seemed to fall utterly silent, holding its breath with me. No screams of joy, no jumping up and down like you see in movies. Just a profound, overwhelming stillness, my hands trembling uncontrollably. A single thought echoed in the void. Now what? My first instinct, sharp and certain, was, don't tell anyone, especially not my family. I knew with gut-wrenching certainty their reaction wouldn't be joy for me, but calculations about me. How much could they get? How soon? Sharing this news with them felt like inviting vultures to a feast. That night, sleep was impossible. Instead, I sat hunched over my beat-up laptop, typing, "What to do when you win the lottery," into the search bar. Article after article stressed the same crucial first step: stay anonymous and get professional help immediately. I researched top financial advisors in Portland, meticulously reading reviews, looking for experience and discretion. I settled on Diane Miller, a highly respected advisor with over 2 decades of experience, whose office was located in a discreet, modern building downtown. Walking into that first meeting, dressed in my best, which wasn't much, my nerves were frayed. I arrived 15 minutes early, clutching the winning ticket in a plain envelope. Diane Miller's office was calm, smelled faintly of lavender, and played soft classical music. She greeted me with a warm, firm handshake and eyes that seemed both kind and incredibly sharp. "Well, Grace," she said gently, after I'd spilled out the entire story in a rush of anxious words, "this certainly changes things, but winning is just the first step. Our job is to turn this incredible luck into lasting security and opportunity." Over the next 3 hours, Diane laid out a clear, comprehensive plan. Anonymity was paramount. We wouldn't claim the prize under my name. Instead, we'd establish a limited liability company, LLC, with a nondescript name. All winnings would flow into the LLC, shielding my identity from public records. Diane brought in specialists, a tax attorney renowned for handling large sums, an investment strategist with a conservative, long-term approach. They worked seamlessly, treating my situation with utmost seriousness and confidentiality. For the first time, I felt like I had a team solely dedicated to my best interests. The process took weeks, involving intricate paperwork and legal steps, but finally, it was done. The prize was claimed through the LLC. After state and federal taxes, the net amount deposited into the new secure company account was just over $85 million. Seeing that number on a bank statement felt utterly surreal. Just months ago, I was counting pennies for ramen noodles. Now, I could buy the entire apartment building I lived in. But I didn't. Guided by Diane, I started small, deliberately. First, I paid off every cent of my staggering student loan debt. Then, cleared the small balances on my credit cards. I quietly moved out of the dingy studio and into a modest, comfortable rented house in a quiet, leafy Portland suburb. No mansion, no fanfare. I bought a car, a reliable gray hybrid Lexus. Nice, but not flashy, discreet. I kept my marketing assistant job for the first few weeks, clinging to the routine, the normalcy, needing time to adjust to this new secret reality. The only immediate change was quitting the exhausting night shifts at the bakery. I wrote the owner a heartfelt thank you note, enclosed a check large enough to significantly upgrade their pastry display case, and walked away feeling lighter than air. The biggest surprise wasn't the freedom from financial worry, though that was immense. It was the peace. Waking up in a sunlit kitchen, brewing coffee without calculating if I could afford creamer, reading a book without the gnawing anxiety of upcoming bills. It was transformative. I found a simple frame and placed the $2 lottery ticket inside, hanging it next to my desk. Not as a trophy, but as a quiet reminder. Sometimes all you need is a chance, even one given with indifference. And that finally, my worth wasn't tied to anyone else's valuation. I was finding it myself. 3 months. 90 days of quiet adjustment, of letting the reality sink in, of slowly shedding the skin of the girl who expected nothing. Then, I was ready to truly build my new life. I gave my notice at the marketing firm, telling my surprised but supportive colleagues I'd landed a fantastic remote freelance opportunity with an international creative agency, a believable step up for someone they knew as hardworking and ambitious. My next move was to Lake Oswego, a beautiful, serene suburb nestled near Portland, known for its natural beauty and privacy. There, through the LLC, I purchased a 2-story modern farmhouse, light-filled, spacious, with a wide backyard backing onto woodlands. It had the open kitchen with a granite island I'd always dreamed of, and tall windows that flooded the space with morning sun. It felt like a sanctuary. For transportation, I chose a pearl-white Tesla. Sleek, silent, a world away from the sputtering budget cars of my past. Again, registered under the LLC with a personalized plate, GK27, only I knew it stood for Grace King, my name, my birth date, a quiet assertion of self. Mornings became rituals of peace. Brewing coffee in my state-of-the-art machine, standing on the upstairs balcony overlooking the tree-lined driveway, breathing in the clean Oregon air, feeling light, truly light for the first time. With financial security handled by Diane Miller and her team, I finally had the freedom to pursue long-suppressed passions. I started writing children's stories, tales filled with the magic and resilience I wished I'd had more of growing up. Things my family had always dismissed as impractical dreams. Through Diane's connections, I even made a small anonymous investment in an independent children's publishing house. On weekends, I signed up for watercolor classes at a local art studio, losing myself in colors and textures, creating simply for the joy of it. No deadlines, no expectations, no critical comparisons to Leo. No more hearing. If Leo can achieve X, why can't you? My life was finally my own. I deliberately stayed off all social media. No Facebook updates, no Instagram posts. Privacy was my shield. But the modern world has cracks. The first sign of trouble came via Messenger from Olivia, a classmate from college. "Grace, did you just buy a house in Lake Oswego? Swear I saw your photo in the LO Neighbors group. Freaked out." My blood ran cold. Apparently, someone in the upscale neighborhood group had snapped a picture of my distinctive Tesla parked near my mailbox, which initially had my name, S. King, subtly listed, with a jokey caption, "Anyone know what our new neighbor does to afford this? Free Starbucks for the right guess." I scrambled, immediately having the mailbox label changed to the anonymous LLC name and reviewing all public-facing registrations. But the damage was done. Olivia hadn't explicitly outed me, but the seed of curiosity was sown. A week later, a text from my cousin Noah confirmed my fears. "Hey, So you really moved to Lake Oswego? Wild. Everyone's talking. Your mom asked me if I knew how you afforded it. My heart sank. After years of being a non-entity, a whisper of wealth was all it took for them to suddenly remember my existence. I didn't reply to Noah, but the cold dread returned. I knew my carefully constructed anonymity was crumbling. The peace I'd cultivated felt threatened. Confirmation came sooner than expected. One crisp fall morning, while watering the chrysanthemums lining my driveway, I saw a familiar black SUV cruise slowly down my quiet street, then pause directly in front of my gate. My breath caught. The window rolled down. Behind the wheel sat Leo. Beside him, my mother, Margaret. Her hair perfectly coiffed, eyes wide with undisguised curiosity, staring intently at my house. She made no effort to look away. I instinctively ducked behind a large maple tree, heart pounding like a drum. They lingered for a long minute. I saw Leo turn and say something to Mom. I couldn't hear the words, but the intent was clear. It must be her. The SUV finally drove away, leaving a cloud of dust and a heavy sense of foreboding. My sanctuary had been found. That night, the warm glow of my living room fireplace felt less comforting. My phone buzzed. A text message from Mom Margaret. Grace, we need to talk. We'll come visit you soon. I stared at the screen, then locked it without replying. I had earned this peace. Now, how hard would I have to fight to keep it? The texts from my mother, Margaret, became a near-daily occurrence over the following week. They shifted tactics like a chameleon changing colors. One day it was saccharine sweetness. Sweetheart, I just want to see you. I miss my daughter. Boss. The next, a casual lure. Making your favorite pot roast this Sunday. Why don't you join us? Then the classic guilt trip, wrapped in a veneer of family values. Family is forever, Grace. No matter what, you'll always be part of us. I read them all, a familiar weariness settling over me. I didn't reply, but I didn't block her number either. Part of me, the part that had meticulously documented years of slights, wanted to see the full performance. How far would they push? After nearly 2 weeks of my steadfast silence, the phone rang. Caller ID, Leo, my brother. I let it ring 4 times, my thumb hovering over the decline button. Then, steeling myself, I answered. Grace? Leo's voice was overly bright, dripping with forced cheerfulness. Hey! Listen, Mom's really torn up that you've been ghosting us. Seriously, she cried all night yesterday. A masterful guilt play opener. He paused, letting it sink in, before smoothly transitioning. So, big news. Me and Sophia, we're getting married. You hear? Planning the ceremony for next spring. Mom and Dad are over the moon. I leaned back against my plush sofa, staring blankly at the vaulted ceiling. Yeah, Leo, I heard, I replied, keeping my voice neutral, flat. Great. So listen, he continued, the real purpose emerging. Why don't you come over for dinner this Sunday? You know, catch up? The whole family will be there. Just come hang out. We're still family, right? Family. The word felt heavy, loaded. I hesitated. A wave of old resentment washed over me, tempting me to refuse, to maintain my distance. But another part, a stronger part, felt a pull towards closure. A need to witness their true motivations firsthand, to confirm that walking away had been the right, the only, choice. And perhaps, a small, defiant part wanted to show them, subtly, that I was no longer the overlooked girl they could manipulate. Okay, Leo, I said quietly. Sunday dinner, I'll be there. Sunday evening arrived cool and clear. Driving towards the old house, the one filled with ghosts of neglect and comparison, felt strangely surreal. Same aging picket fence, same cracked flagstone walkway, same porch swing swaying gently in the breeze. Everything looked the same, but I wasn't. I wasn't the girl desperately hoping for a crumb of approval. Mom Margaret opened the door, enveloping me in a hug that felt just a fraction too tight, too performative. Grace, you look thin!" she exclaimed, immediately turning towards the kitchen without waiting for a response. Dad Robert offered a stiff nod, the kind reserved for distant acquaintances. Leo slapped me heartily on the back, a booming, "Good to see ya!" like we were buddies reuniting after a brief vacation. Dinner was exactly as I'd anticipated. A monologue disguised as conversation, orbiting entirely around Leo and Sophia. Their wedding plans, the venue, the guest list. Mom proudly showed off photos of Sophia's chosen dress on her phone. Dad detailed his plans for decorating the backyard. I picked at my food, offered polite smiles, nodded occasionally, and mentally ticked off the minutes until the inevitable ask. It came with dessert. Mom tapped her water glass with a spoon, the gentle clink silencing the table. All eyes turned to her, then, pointedly, to me. "Grace, dear," she began, her voice syrupy sweet. "Leo and Sophia are so excited for the wedding, naturally, but putting on a proper celebration, and they'll need to expand the house soon, especially with the baby coming. Well, it all adds up." I set my water glass down carefully. My hand was perfectly steady. I was ready. "And," Mom continued, leaning forward conspiratorially, her eyes gleaming with calculation, "since you seem to be doing so well for yourself these days," a subtle nod towards the roomers. "The family was thinking, perhaps you could help out? Just a little something to get them started. Maybe around, say, $100,000? For a new garage, help with the wedding caterer?" Dad nodded gravely, as if endorsing a perfectly reasonable request. Leo leaned back, arms crossed, a confident, expectant smile playing on his lips. "Yeah, Grace," he chimed in smoothly. "I know you get it. We're family, blood, helping each other out when it counts. That's just what families do. It should be a given." I looked slowly around the table, meeting each of their expectant gazes. My parents, my brother, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. The years of hoping, of trying, of shrinking myself to fit their narrative, it all coalesced into a profound, quiet calm. The calm of finality. "Family?" I repeated the word softly, letting it hang in the suddenly tense air. My voice was steady, devoid of anger, devoid of pleading. Just calm. Where was family when I was juggling 2 jobs and eating instant noodles for weeks just to pay my rent in that tiny Portland studio? Silence. Their expectant smiles faltered. Where was this helping each other when I was drowning in student loan debt while Leo's tuition was paid in full? I turned my gaze directly to my mother, Margaret. "What was it you always told me back then, Mom?" I tilted my head slightly, feigning contemplation. "Oh, right." My voice remained level. "No one's stopping you from working harder, Grace." Their faces registered shock, then discomfort. This wasn't the script they'd rehearsed. They expected gratitude for being invited. Perhaps some token resistance, followed by capitulation driven by guilt. They didn't expect me to hold up a mirror to their own words. "Well," I continued, a small, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips, "I took your advice. I worked harder, much harder, but not to fund the lifestyle you always prioritized for Leo, not to pay for the things you always dismissed for me." No one spoke. No one argued. The carefully constructed facade of familial warmth had crumbled, revealing the transactional core beneath. I pushed my chair back slowly, stood up, and picked up my purse. I looked at each of them one last time, my mother avoiding my eyes now, my father staring down at his plate, my brother, his confident smirk replaced by a stunned, sullen expression. "I spent years hoping you'd see me," I said quietly, the words carrying the weight of decades of disappointment. "Hoping I could somehow earn my place as part of this family. But I don't hope for that anymore." I paused, then turned my gaze to Leo. "And if you really want to expand your garage, Leo," I said, echoing my mother's past dismissal with that same calm smile, "then no one is stopping you from working harder." With that, I turned and walked towards the front door. The click as it closed behind me felt definitive, like the final lock turning on a chapter I no longer needed to revisit. Driving back to Lake Oswego that night, the silence in the car was profound. No music, just the whisper of tires on the asphalt. The lights of my parents' house faded in the rearview mirror, becoming indistinguishable from all the other distant glows. I hadn't just left a building. I'd walked away from a lifetime of trying to fit where I clearly didn't belong. Back in my own peaceful living room, I sank onto the sofa, kicked off my shoes, and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for 35 years. There wasn't a sudden burst of elation, but rather a deep, quiet sadness, the healthy grief of acknowledging a loss, even if what was lost was only an illusion of family. But crucially, there was no guilt, no tears, just breath. The next morning, my phone predictably lit up with messages. Margaret, what did you mean by that? I never treated you differently. You really hurt my feelings, Grace. Leo, I don't even know who you are anymore, acting like a stranger when we just needed a little help. I glanced at the notifications, then dropped the phone into a desk drawer and locked it. I'd heard these refrains my entire life. The difference now? I no longer believed them. My days unfolded with newfound rhythm and purpose, dictated only by my own desires. Early morning coffee on the porch, watching the Oregon mist burn off the lawn. Hours spent writing, losing myself in worlds of my own creation. Finally learning to play the ukulele, clumsy chords filling the house with tentative music, a dream deferred since high school. Guided by Diane Miller, who had become a trusted confidant beyond just finances, I made smart, quiet investments. Bought a small, rustic cabin, nestled deep in the Cascades for solitary writing retreats. Took trips, not escaping, but exploring. Sipped wine overlooking the Pacific in San Diego. Hiked among the vibrant fall colors near Asheville. Felt the quiet power of the red rocks in Sedona. My house became more of a home. Lavender bloomed along the fence line. A comfortable swing swayed gently in the backyard. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled the living room, testaments to my love of stories. Every choice felt like a reclamation. One afternoon, I received an invitation to an art exhibition in Eugene. An illustrator had chosen one of my published children's short stories to interpret visually for a New Voices showcase. Driving there alone, soft jazz playing, I felt a quiet thrill. At the gallery, no family applauded, no cameras flashed, but seeing my words brought to life on the wall felt more validating than any forced praise I'd ever received. Later, sketching ideas in a nearby cafe, a little girl approached my table, eyes wide. "Are you the one who wrote The Girl in the Moonbeam?" she whispered. I smiled and nodded. "I love that story. You're a really good writer." That simple, genuine compliment from a stranger warmed me in a way decades of striving for familial approval never had. It settled in my chest, a quiet joy, confirming I needed nothing more. I had stepped out of the invisible cage. Months later, waiting for coffee at my favorite Portland bakery, a voice behind me said my name. I turned. It was Leo. He looked rumpled, tired. The old arrogance was gone, replaced by a weary bitterness. "Didn't expect to see you here," he mumbled. A brief, awkward exchange about Sophia being pregnant again. Then he looked at me, a flicker of resentment in his eyes. "You know, sometimes I think this world just isn't fair." I met his gaze calmly. "I agree. Life isn't fair," I replied evenly. "But I learned how to make it fair for myself." He opened his mouth, then closed it, perhaps finally understanding the profound distance between us now. He knew I had outgrown them. My coffee arrived. "I really do wish you the best, Leo," I said sincerely, then walked out into the sunshine, steady and sure. That night, on my porch, tea warming my hands, watching the stars emerge over Lake Oswego, I reflected. All those years feeling like a flawed copy, an extra piece. Now I knew. I wasn't a copy. I was Grace. Overlooked, yes. Dismissed, absolutely. But I had risen. I had rebuilt. Life might be unfair, but I had forged my own fairness, my own freedom. and that no one could ever take away. From a girl deemed unworthy by her own family, I learned that true value isn't given. It's built. Walking away from toxic expectations was the first step towards finding real happiness and freedom. My story is proof that no one defines your worth but you. What do you think of Grace's journey and her decision? Have you faced similar challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please subscribe to Life Stories for more powerful stories about self-worth, resilience, and navigating complex family ties. Thanks for watching.